Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about Raw, which is a 2017 French film directed by Julie Ducournau. Now, if you've known me for quite some time, you would know that Raw is one of my favorite films of all time, and I hope I do it justice in this review. And yeah, before I start, I just want to apologize if I'm sometimes looking at my laptop since I have some of my notes here. So yeah, Raw is about Justin, a 16-year-old gifted teen who is ready to go to vet school as a college freshman, where her older sister also studies. Now, she has been a vegetarian and has all her life been applying to her rules. However, once she gets to school, hazing rituals begin to start, where she is forced to eat raw rabbit meat. And from this point on, some unexpected consequences begin to emerge as her true self begins to form. Oh, okay. I forgot to say another thing. In this review, there would be some mild to serious spoilers, so yeah, just watch at your own discretion. Now, Raw is marketed as a cannibalistic horror film where it gets most of its gimmick from viewers fainting during screenings of this film at film festivals and people proclaiming it's the scariest film ever made. And I can see how certain expectations may ruin this for a viewer because I truly do not think Raw is a horror film. I think it is a drama. I think it is a coming of age film about a teenager undergoing an identity crisis and a sexual awakening. And under this sort of big umbrella are smaller sub themes such as how an abuse of addiction can lead to a authoritative character enslaved by the horrors of obsession. And another more heartfelt theme is the tale between the two sisters and how they create this bond and how this bond may help them throughout their trials and tribulations throughout the film. Now, all of these themes are complex and they're all rather mundane. And what the film does uniquely from other coming of age stories is that it gathers all of these mundane events and adds a sort of speculative what if aspect in the background of cannibalism. Now, yeah, I know how it sounds. It might be a ridiculous setup, but I really think it works here. And it might be silly if looked at literally, but I think what the film does is that it tries to challenge its viewers to look at life with a unique set of lens. Because some of the events portrayed in this film are truly outlandish and unrealistic and even maybe silly and humorous at times to people. And that's where it gets its excitement and appeal. Well, for me at least, though, okay, the story on the surface is a woman who has a sudden craving for meat after this ritual. But beneath this surface level understanding are labyrinthine ideas of change and essentially about growing up. One can view the cannibalistic aspect of this film as a sort of huge metaphor for adolescence and puberty. And that's certainly one way of going about the film. And I think that's why Raw is so special. I think that's why Raw is so great because it is profound enough to provoke multiple interpretations from the viewer. And, just like any good art, that's what cinema is for, right? It's meant to challenge and question the viewer's basic set of principles and standards. Now, if you were to ask me, it's all about change and embracing the inevitable change that we'll have to face, whether we like it or not. Now, it's a film I think literally anyone can relate to, but I think the target audience for this film are those college freshmen or those people who have to move out of their homes to matriculate just for them to study. And I think it can be seen in the entire cast, but I really think it reflects highly in the main character, Justin. Now, I'm not sure if the film is meant to be a vindicated sort of commentary on French society, but what struck me the most about the film, especially throughout repeated multiple viewings, was how these teenagers acted and how absolutely none of them was a good influence at all, and how everything they acted on were vices rather than virtues. And all of these vices and virtues I felt like made the film much more appealing in a way because the way these teens were portrayed where they revolted to society not just to sort of strengthen or make the narrative go forward, but I also think that it is meant to reflect how some certain teenagers act today. You know, from cheating in exams to college parties and sex and hazing rituals. I mean, I don't think it would be a generalized point of view of how every single teenagers act, but I felt like the film sort of examined this specific population of teenagers to see how their actions would taint Justin's character throughout the entire film. And the way their actions tainted Justin's character was done both physically and metaphorically throughout, you know, the film using the cannibalistic lens as a sort of metaphor for the coming of age, and physically as seen through the body rashes that she started to manifest throughout the entire film after she started eating the raw rabbit meat. It's as if the film was telling us that change was difficult for her to embrace at first. You know, her skin reacts physically. And what struck me the most here was how like dilapidated her change was, how exponentially fast her behavior started to mutate and deform. That was actually a nitpick for me when I first saw the film, but you know, on repeated viewings, the more I think about it, I felt that it was appropriate because it showed how significant the environment also is in determining not just our growth, but also how fast our growth is and our change. And it just goes to show that change is not just intrinsic, but it is also extrinsic. Well, I can't pass by a review of Raw without talking about the finger scene. And you know, some spoilers here. The finger scene, which I think is the most pivotal moment in the film because it is sort of the apex. That's where Justin finally embraced her character, and that's where Justin finally embraced who she was as a human being and accepted that change has finally come for her. And of course, this was accompanied by a brilliant, and by this I mean brilliant, exceptional, wonderful synth score from Jim Williams, who also did the synth score for another film, A Field in England, released in 2015. And the scores for A Field in England and Raw have sort of similar melodic tones. Now, during the finger scene, the score starts out simple enough, just some guitar strings. But when the moment finally comes, that's when Justin finally ate the finger. And when blood started pouring down her hand, that's when both Justin and us, the audience, think, oh snap, change has finally come. And the score from the guitar strings, it abruptly shifts into a synthetic and electric score, and it's absolutely brilliant. And it is during this moment where Justin realized that she can't go back, that she has finally incorporated and accepted this change into her life. Now, another scene which I think was important was the mirror scene, the mirror dance scene where Justin tried to put on a facade when she wore tight clothes, put lipstick, and played a sexually explicit song in the background and was trying to dance to that song. And to see how she would be like, to see if she, as the misfit, can fit along with the group, if she can fit along with everybody else. But you know, from this point, I think the film goes to show that we can't, even though we have to face change, we can't just force that specific change upon us because it showed through Justin's actions how her trying to fit in led her to become more of a pariah and to become more distant within the group. The prime example of this was the fully painted sexual encounter with that guy, and also in the end when she was publicly shamed and bullied for almost eating the hand of the corpse while she was intoxicated in a party. And what shows here is that our lives are not static. And yeah, we have to face change, but it is still up to us on how we accept that certain change in our life. But what the film showed was that Justin took this change, she used that change not as something good for herself, but she used it rather as a vice, something that would damage her character and damage that sort of ultimate, you know, manic picturesque pixie dream girl of that ideal student who goes to college to get a good education, to get a good job. And when it is revealed all in the end that it was also that her parents also partook in this quasi hazing cannibalistic demeanor, we are finally led to question our values. You know, are we who we are because it is hereditary, or can we change who we have become in spite of certain family history? I know how this may sound quite fatalistic and nihilistic, but I believe that the way the film shows its sympathy for change, as seen through the bond between the two sisters, Alex and Justin, I felt like the way they sort of helped each other, their personal development and growth throughout the film, throughout their trials, I felt like it was very done well. It was done in a heartfelt manner, and I felt like that's when the film finally revealed its sympathetic, beating heart amidst all the, say, body, gore, and violence throughout the entire film. And yeah, I stated earlier that I don't think this is a horror film. I don't think it's meant to scare viewers, certainly. But yeah, there's obviously a horror aspect to this because of the gore and the basic concept itself. It's about cannibalism. Why won't it be horror? Yeah, I certainly agree that it's an horror aspect, but I don't think, from an absolutist perspective, I don't think it is a horror film. But yeah, there are certainly some good horror aspects here, and I believe they are done well. And I believe she paid homage to a lot of films in the past. For instance, the body horror and gore itself reminded me of a lot of films in the 80s, from, say, David Cronenberg to John Carpenter. Even the synth score reminded me of something catchy and rhythmic, like the synth score of Halloween. And even the scene in the beginning, the hazing ritual scene where they drop the bucket of blood on the college freshmen during their hazing, it felt like an homage to Brian De Palma's Carrie when they dropped the bucket of blood on Carrie during prom. And yeah, it shows that Julie Ducournau knows her horror films, but I just don't think it is sort of the main thing that the film wanted to sell. Now, what else can I say? It is stellar. The rest of the film is stellar. The acting performances from Garance Marillier, I think she does a really good job from shifting into that sort of naive and innocent girl into the more deranged and cannibalistic performance. And Ella Rumpf as the sister, even though she's not in a lot of the film, I really felt like she stole all the scenes that she was in. And of course, I have to mention again the synth score. It's absolutely wonderful. It's one of the best scores I've heard in my entire life. And I'd be jealous for like a first time viewer who would watch the film for the first time and listen to the score because it really is brilliant. And of course, yeah, the narrative is fairly simple enough to follow, but what really separates this film among all other coming age films for me was how it looks at coming of age with a different set of lens and how it challenges the viewer to walk into the shoes of another person, and it challenged us to face life with a different set of lens and its problems and its perspectives all differently from what we usually face and how we usually face its problems. And that really is the film's main selling point for me. So yeah, Raw is a profound film. It is terrific. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and I can see why some people won't like it, especially if, you know, we can't stomach the more grotesque and sort of bloody scenes. But I mean, if you're okay with that, you should certainly give Raw a look. I believe it is profound. It is terrific, from the acting, from the performances, to the score, to the cinematography, to everything. It really is one of the best coming of age films that I've seen. I mean, yeah, it is the story of a woman basically undergoing through change. But as she faces that change, we as the viewers are led to see that change in a rather, not a fatalistic, but a rather more humanistic view that at times is metaphysical, as cliche as it sounds. It is very meta and I love it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Raw. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and see you next time.